Let's dig in, guys. Fresh off of his big vacation to the UK, Carter the Power Bryant back in the house with me to dig into some football card action. And also, I think you had a couple, learning lessons about football cards while you're over there.
Yeah, it's funny. The NFL is growing in England, and it's kind of strange, right? So, for me, Andy, we're going to talk about so many different things a little bit later. There is one Hall of Fame quarterback. We could not believe how low his prices are. But the one thing I learned, overseas, as far as like football cards are concerned, is that the NFL, once again, is growing in England. And one sport that is not big in Europe at all, and I was kind of shocked by this, was the NBA. And the reason why, and I asked a bunch of people about this, is well, they can't watch the games because those games play at night and everyone's asleep, unless you're going to stay up until 2 or 3, and there are some people that do that. Andy, the NFL has room to grow in England, and I know that there's a lot of people listening to this that do not believe it. They're like, why are we forcing all these games overseas? It's not good for the players. Well, I was shocked in how many NFL hats I saw and how many people say, hey, we go to the game every year in Wembley. And I also, there's a piece of me that thinks that football cards could potentially be a thing in Europe, which is crazy to think about. But the main reason is because the NFL plays so many games at noon, they play so many games at 3. That is very watchable for people in Europe. So that's why the NFL is pushing for more London games and just more games in a game in Germany, for instance. So it was very interesting. It was such a great trip. I'm so happy to be back at the States, back in the States, looking at football cards, which is my favorite hobby out there. And Andy, obviously, the big story over the past couple of weeks, and I heard you during your solo episode talk about the schedule release. So, my first thing for you, how do you feel about football cards since I've been gone? What has been some of your biggest takeaways, not only from this past week, but since the NFL draft has happened?
Well, there's definitely been a noticeable little slowdown in terms of and this is a personal anecdote from my sold volume on eBay. I've only sold a couple cards in the last couple weeks, whereas heading into the draft and throughout April was an incredible sales month. And so I've seen a little bit of slowdown, but there's also a lot less auctions, noticeably less auctions for football cards on eBay compared to what you'll find for baseball and basketball. And we know that basketball is in the playoffs and the MLB is heating up. So we're in this interesting kind of soft market for football. However, prices for a lot of guys are still staying elevated. They're still fresh off of this inflated hype cycle where prices got pretty steep for these elite players, especially guys that got hyped up big time throughout the draft cycle and just from prior performance from last year. So we're in an interesting window. Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert still are leading the way in terms of volume, but Jalen Hurts kind of still maintains that right behind him. Tua's kind of crept up there, so there's also some interesting skill, like the top skill position seller in terms of volume is still Justin Jefferson, but we still don't have these 2021 products. So you have a very limited supply still for 2021 rookie cards. So those guys typically are not even making the top 20 of sold volume on a weekly basis because the product is just not out there for people to buy.
And obviously, the biggest story outside of just the schedule release, but when it comes to hobby related content, my prediction was right. Okay. I'm rarely right about something, but I was right about this thing, that this schedule or this product release just continues to keep getting pushed back. For whatever reason, Andy, that is out there, Prism. I'm gonna be married. I'm gonna have 3 kids. I, I, there's no telling what's gonna happen when 2021 Prism is actually finally going to be released. So I understand, Andy, that the football market is going to be heavily influenced by when that product comes out. And one thing that people really need to keep in mind from someone that has bought retail wax before at a high volume is that there's a lot of people that just want to buy boxes and hold them. They just do. So I do think, Andy, Once again, I'm not as heavily influenced into the numbers and as well versed into the numbers as you are, but I read our Patreon community. I read the Discord. I read what Card Twitter is talking about. There's still just that heavily anticipation. I know Contenders is out there. There's still, Andy, just this heavily anticipation for when product finally gets released. And once again, we gotta actually wait until June. I would have my flip flops on going swimming. I'm gonna be like, oh, I gotta go to the store and see if I can get some products. So, Andy, for me, that is my major takeaway. Not only the schedule release, but the fact that people are still waiting to get their hands on some new Trevor Lawrence Prism product.
Yeah, and it's a major release. So we're talking
Huge.
blasters, hangers, megas going into Target, Walmarts for all three of those major brands, Prism, Select, and Optic. Now pushed to June and then July for Optic and Select. And it's wild because, yeah, you do see a lot of contenders. Like I go on to Target.com right now and buy a blaster box for like $30 of 2021 contenders. However, it's not being sold out. It's not being flipped like it was with 2020 realizing the hit rate for the actual rookie ticket auto is pretty low. Like if you want to guarantee yourself to at least get one auto, you got to at least buy a mega box or a hobby box if you want to get that auto rookie ticket auto. So it's kind of and with the prices of retail just kind of have gone up naturally due to the demand. We're seeing a lot more supply sitting out there still for 2021 contenders, and that's that supply of just general for 2021 athletes are getting ready to be tripled, quadrupled here by the end of the summer, heading into this new season.
Andy, I'm going to make a suggestion. I'm going to give 2 hot takes. Now, this isn't going to be my play of the week. That's going to be coming up at the end, okay? The first thing I would do right now, if you are one of these investor, buyer, collectors, whatever you want to call it, I would sell all my Tua Tagovailoa right now. Just get rid of it. The schedule to start the season is just too brutal. Okay, I was going to save that for the end, but I just want to give people a really nice, spicy take in the middle of this episode, right?
But let me make sure I caught the name because you may have glitched out when you said that player's name.
No, Tua Tagovailoa,
okay,
the
we got it.
Hawaiian sensation. Now, look, I know he went to Alabama. A lot of people will consider, well, he's just saying that because he's an LSU player. No, Tua is still the most impressive high school quarterback I think I've ever seen, Andy. His high school tape was so good. I remember being on the radio and saying, this guy should start as a true freshman over Jalen Hurts. And he ended up beating out Jalen Hurts for that job, even though Jalen was a really good player. But, with the hip injury, I just don't believe it, even with all the new weapons that are in. I've been waiting to get this take off because finally, Andy, we're able to see the schedule. New England at Baltimore, Buffalo at Cincinnati. Let me ask you this right now.
Oof.
Right now, Andy. Can you envision Miami going 3-1 versus that schedule to start the season? 3-1.
No.
No, I can't either.
No.
Even though Miami's skill position players are better than some of those teams, even though Miami's defense is better than some of those teams I just mentioned, they have a new head coach. We'll see what McDaniel's actually able to do. I'm just selling all my Tua right now. He's not the guy. The AFC is too loaded with quarterbacks anyway if you're looking at a long-term situation. So take advantage of the hype cycle with, Cheetah being there now and Jalen Waddle. Just sell his product right now because he's just not the guy. It's still amazing to me, Andy, that his product goes for so much. I think some of it is he is a part of that legendary 2020 draft class with Burrow and Herbert and Hurts. I'm just not a Tua believer. So, I was going to say that for the end. I was just ready to get that out, though. I'm selling all my Tua. That was the first thing that I took away when the schedule release actually happened. Now, my second take as far as like sealed wax is concerned right now, Andy, I would be very careful right now with clearing the shelf with sealed wax. There is a reason if you walk into a Walmart or a Target, why there's a lot of Panini Contenders products still on the shelves, because people just aren't pulling those rookie ticket autos out of those blasters. I would be very careful because I know a lot of people cashed in and made a lot of money off this 2020 rookie product. This is the one thing I think, Andy, people forget when they actually buy wax. There are people out there that buy the wax to actually rip it, not to actually hold it for forever. Which quarterback that you would rip right now would excite you? Now, right now, there's a lot of them. Trey Lance, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson. But are those guys actually good? No,
Hmm.
they're not. They're definitely not Burrow. They're definitely not Herbert. And you could make a strong case that you would take Jalen Hurts over any of those guys that we just mentioned, especially now that he has AJ freaking Brown to throw to in the NFC East. Andy, I would just be very careful. I know there's so much anticipation leading into this product, but inflation is up. The price of everything is up. There's a lot of other better product you could put that money towards. So I would be very careful. I understand that there's a lot of people that would buy this product and just hold it. Even then, I just don't know, because so much of what that product is, the reason why Prism 2020 megaboxes are going for $300 now is because Burrow and Herbert are so freaking good at football. I
Mm-hmm.
just don't know if there's a lot of long-term value in this 2021 rookie class when it comes to sealed wax.
That's going to be a long shot, man. When you think about it, and especially when we know we've got quantifiable data that they have added additional base cards, additional base
Right.
inserts, which only further kind of dilute that base tier, which is fine if you're buying those singles of those quarterbacks for a couple dollars. There's potential there because you're getting at such a low entry point. But when you're buying a sealed product, and you're spending $30 on a blaster box, the chances of you just getting a decent ROI back are pretty rare. And I think
Whoa.
that's why there's a lot of that stuff sitting on the shelves, and we haven't seen the output, the production for any of these 5 first-round guys from 2021 to kind of signal us to go flock and clear the shelves of 2021 product.
And look, let me ask you this, Andy. We were friends when the 2020 season started. I remember you and I talking, after like the first couple of weeks we saw Burrow and Herbert play, we're like, okay, these guys are really good. I just wanted to be known that, yes, Josh Allen magically turned into what he is now. Okay. But that's an anomaly, right? Most of the great quarterbacks, especially of this modern era, you kind of knew immediately that they were going to be who they were, right? It didn't take long for us to look at Patrick Mahomes and say, okay, this guy, we're looking at something special. The same thing is true about Joe Burrow. The same thing is true about Justin Herbert. Immediately, you were like, Anthony Lynn, what are you doing? Why are you playing Tyrod Taylor over this guy? Andy,
Yeah.
you just know it immediately, right? I just want people to, even Lamar Jackson, when you saw Lamar play, you're like, okay, this guy is going to change what we think of the quarterback position. And he did. You kind of know. You just do. I know a lot of people are predicting at least one of these guys to have that Josh Allen type of leap. As high as I am on Justin Fields, I don't know if that's going to happen in Chicago, Trevor Lawrence and all of that. So here's the thing. You talked about this last week in your solo episode, which was really good, by the way. I was like, maybe we should just get rid of this Carter guy altogether. But you made a really good point. There's still flip opportunities. There still is, right? If you get it at a certain price and sell it when it's at its highest, yes, there still is flip opportunity. I just don't fully believe in any of these 5 quarterbacks, and it's going to be tough for them to turn things around at each of their situations.
Yeah, that's the thing for me with the newer product like 2020, 2021. Entry point is so critical because of the newer product coming out. And I've tend to, because they've printed more inserts, more base cards, the print runs have gone up. I've tended to gravitate to more rare cards, and especially autograph cards. The patches are all, not from any specific game. So that kind of drives people crazy. That's devalued that. So I kind of stick to the serial numbered and autograph cards to get the best ROI. But the catch 22, the rub is that the supply is getting ready to triple or quadruple for all these 2021 rookies. And it's just not as deep of like quarterbacks. Yeah, sure. 5 first round quarterbacks, but the skill position players. We can talk about the skill position players
Yeah.
between 2020 and 2021. And whenever I can, go to a 2020 guy like CeeDee Lamb or T. Higgins and buy, the rookie ticket auto for less than 100, but I fully understand the supply that's out there for those guys. I don't fully understand the supply that's going to be out there for Jamar Chase or Javonte Williams, guys like that.
You know how much I love Jamar Chase. You know how much I love Justin Jefferson. I still think both of those guys, even though they are a little pricey, I still believe in their long-term relevance. But always keep in mind the supply. Always keep in mind what other people are doing. There are people very intrigued by the NBA market. There's a lot of Luka cards going for berserk prices, and everybody's pouring a lot of money into that guy right now. And baseball with all these young prospects, Wander Franco. So yes, it is very busy. I will bring this up to you, Andy. You made a good point about just eBay auctions being a little bit more scarce. I think because it is such a busy market with other sports happening, I do think that's part of it. But the one thing I've noticed as well, Andy, and I do it pretty often, I even did it in Europe, doing a PSA 10, like just check, auction check to see what's ending soonest and all that stuff. For me, I still think football prices have not dipped as much as I thought they would have after the draft. I was a little shocked because the way I looked at it, me and my lovely now fiance, we spent a lot of money on Europe. That was a bucket list trip, but I still saved a little bit to, buy a few football cards to see if the prices weren't going to dip after the NFL draft cycle. But two things have happened, Andy, and I didn't think that both of these things could happen at once. I've seen the prices not dip as much, and I've also seen the volume of cards also dip at the same time, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel the same way?
Yes, I think that's a really good way to kind of summarize it. The volume has dipped, but the average resale value, as you can see from this wonderful web interface here that David over in our Patreon Discord server built, he's pulling in PSA 10 sold data from eBay over the last 30 days. And you could see there's not a big change in the average resale volume of even these base cards, but they're in a PSA 10 grade. However, the actual the sold volume has gone down, but the resale value has stayed roughly the same.
It's very interesting. And I will say this on behalf of all our listeners and on behalf of you, Andy, that's frustrating, right? Because we look at this stuff often and we look at potential buying opportunities. It is frustrating. There's no other way around it, right? Like for me, I've had a lot of players I collect have a serious heavy hype cycle. Tyrann Mathieu being one of them, going to the Saints. But obviously, most people collect quarterbacks, and they were looking for buying opportunities for quarterbacks, and Justin Jefferson cards. They're still pretty high. There's just no other way around it. They're still pretty high. So, keep that in mind during these next couple of weeks. I guess, Andy, there might be a dip as more people spend more money on the new product releases. I'm going to be interested. I'm going to be paying close attention now that Prism has been pushed back again to June. Let me ask you this. What do you think prices are going to do for Herbert's, Allen's, Burrows when the new product releases? Do you think they'll go down since, more people are going to be trying to get a Trevor Lawrence Prism, or do you think they'll stay mostly the same?
I think they'll stay mostly the same. I think at this point, with the supply pretty much fully fleshed out, what you're going to see in the marketplace for Herbert and Burrow, it's only the supply is going to go up a little bit once we get in August and close to the season in September. But the resale values are going to pretty much stay the same. You're going to still see people reaching for these guys on a weekly basis. It's gonna keep those comps the same. It's going to keep everything the same. The only thing that would change it if some crazy news happened, but there's not going to be any news that's going to affect it that much. And then performance is actually then going to dictate the card values up or down based on their current expectations. Their current expectations are to be number 1 and 2 in their draft class. I mean, most experts have Herbert ranked in the same top tier as Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. So Kyler Murray. So Justin Herbert has got incredibly high expectations now. Some people are also putting Joe Burrow up there, but then some people are putting Joe Burrow in that second tier with like
Right.
Russell Wilson and Lamar Jackson and that kind of stuff. So they're right there. I mean, they're right there. There's an argument to be made to put him in the top tier. He's just come off a Super Bowl. So their prices are pretty much neck and neck. But I don't think we're going to see a change until there's actual performance had. And then if they don't live up to that expectation coming out of the gate, they could dip going into October, November, what we've seen historically happen, which if that does happen with Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, it's just a great time to buy in. It's kind of becoming the new best time to buy in, honestly. In all reality, that October, November, early December time period is becoming the best time to buy in for football cards.
Because
and a lot of people don't see that.
They don't. They would think the opposite. They would think, well, no, it's the middle of the season. These guys are playing well. No, after that 4 week, we've always seen that dip. You just see it. Now, for me, Andy, and this is where it gets interesting as far as football cards are concerned. These elite quarterbacks are always just going to be the most liquid. I've tried to push back against that notion, but if you want to sell cards, there's always going to be demand for these three names: Allen, Burrow, Herbert, right? There's a good mix of what could potentially happen with them and their long-term outlook. And there's just a lot of hype around those three names in particular. Now, of course, you do have Brady. He's on his own little tier. And you still have guys like Kyler Murray. Dak Prescott is someone that you mentioned last week on the show that I find to be very interesting. There are other names that are out there, but those three names generate the most buzz for me when I look at younger people buying and selling cards. It's Burrow, Allen, and Herbert. Now, once again, there's other names. Jalen Hurts is somebody that's really fascinating. But those three guys, to me, Andy, seem to be the darlings of the football card hobby, and I think that will remain the same over the next few months.
Yeah, I do. I see a lot of plays being made right now on skill position players. And the market is sensitive. It's sensitive about Twitter news releases. For example, Ian Rapport recently went on the Pat McAfee show, and they were talking about the potential of the Green Bay Packers trading Jordan Love for a third-round pick in 2023. And since then, I've seen Jordan Love's sales volume go up 200% from the prior week, up to $41. And you still see Jordan Love rookie ticket autos going for about $120. That's not too much lower than what you could get a Justin Jefferson for. You get a CeeDee Lamb rookie ticket auto for about $100. There's a lot of activity right now going on around speculative skill position players for 2022, and it's very much driven off of like the little news leaks and stuff. I've seen a recent spike for Cam Akers, and we kind of talked about him before the show, but he sniped Odell Beckham Jr.'s jersey number. He got a little bit of news coverage from that. He was highlighted in the playoffs last year for that incredible Achilles recovery, and he pops up all of a sudden on my top buy it now sold volume chart as one of the big volume increases from the prior week. So I just find it interesting how the market, once a certain card eclipses and gets out of that price tier and gets out of more people's comfort level, then they kind of shift their attention to whether it's Hall of Famers or whether it's veteran players or potential Hall of Famers on the fringe. And there's cards that are to be had in there that have a lot more scarcity around it for a much better price point. And it's what do you feel better about getting? A card numbered out of 25, your favorite running back or wide receiver, or getting a base card of a quarterback? So it's kind of that's an interesting dichotomy.
Yeah, and this is coming from someone that sold their favorite rookie on card jersey number match Joe Burrow during the Super Bowl hype cycle. The reason why I knew to do that is because I do the show every week with you. I know a lot of people that are smarter than me. We had all the data surrounding the Super Bowl hype cycle. I knew I needed to sell the Joe Burrow card, sold it for a ridiculous profit, and I was really happy to do that. Now, once again, I was lucky to have a bunch of Burrow cards behind me, and I was Burrow bobbleheads, whatever. But I knew that just because of what I knew about this, and I can assure you, Andy, I know you say it all the time on the channel. Look for those autographs, look for those serial numbered cards, look for the on card auto, and it will not lead you astray. It just won't. Just because of that word that you say more. And I know, Andy, you probably think of this sometimes because people get so used to your voice, your timbre, and the keywords that you always use. Scarcity. Okay. That is one of the major keys in this hobby. If you find scarce cards for good prices, jump on it, right? So, just for me, I bought a Joe Burrow card in, like you said, that October, November, December kind of dead period, right? It was numbered, it was autographed, and it was under $400 of, to me, one of the great quarterbacks in the NFL. Now, I didn't know Burrow was going to do what he did, but I knew at some point that there would be a point where Burrow was the star of the NFL. I just didn't think it would happen that soon. So always look out for that when you are looking for those players. And because of that, it turned out to be a very profitable thing for me. Now, that's not why I bought the Burrow card. I bought it to have in my collection, and I knew they would never be that cheap again. But that's how this works. And if you want to go against it, that's fine. You might have success. You might not. So just remember those two things: scarcity and just the value of what those cards can do. It's truly amazing. Now,
Yeah.
My next question for you, Andy, and this is where it gets really big for me. You mentioned a pretty interesting hobby tip of the week, right? Last week, and I think about this all the time when it comes to football cards, right? What is it? What is the next thing that you want out of your football card collection? Like, as far as like separating yourself from investing, collecting, and all that, what is that next thing that you personally want, Andy? Out of I see all those cards in your background and all your videos. What do you personally want to accomplish over the next couple of months?
Yeah, this is a great question because I was talking to a patron over the weekend. Shout out to JT Cards, and he
JT.
comes from a pure collection background. And he's like, what are you looking to add to your wall?" I'm like, "No, I really thought about this. I'm looking to upgrade my Gronk rookie card to a really nice, rare like Gronk card in the Buccaneers uniform. That's the kind of stuff I'm looking to do. I'm looking to collect Buccaneers, but I'm looking to collect these guys in the Bucs uniform. Like, for example, I'm a big fan of Russell Gage. I'm super excited to see what he does with Tom Brady in September. Former LSU player, right? Underrated. But I mean, the guy has been incredible against man covers and stuff, and I think he's going to be a monster for Tom Brady in that short and intermediate section of the field. But I've got this rookie ticket auto of him in the Falcons uniform, and I don't even want to put it on my wall because I don't like Falcons logos on my wall. Like, it's not something that I want on my wall or to look at on a daily basis. Coming from the same division, I just don't like the Falcons. And so I want to get a Russell Gage, like nice Russell Gage card in that Buccaneers uniform. That's not a rookie card. It's a veteran card, but it's something that I want to collect, So I kind of put myself in the same shoes of other people out there. And then you look at the market sizes, Philadelphia fans, they want AJ Brown, but they probably don't want him in the Titans. Like, maybe, sure, yeah, they want to have some rookie cards, but they really would love to get him in the Eagles uniform. So that's one of the biggest reasons why I think 2022 products going to be hot. The other thing I'm looking to do is get some of my cards graded. And you talk about this, right? Price point and targeting scarcity. One of the reasons why I think it's so important, because listing cards takes a lot of time and effort. And I've got a lot of cards. There's like short print cards, but they're not like super rare cards. They're not serial numbered. They're not autographed. And they're not reselling for a lot of money. And although I may make $4, $5, $10 from them, it would be nice to just buy one card, list one card, make $50, $60, $80, $100. Now all of a sudden you're making that time you invest in and listing the card and putting in the work of buying it and selling it worth a lot more, right? Because just opportunity cost. So I'm looking to become more efficient in the sense of, where am I spending my opportunity costs? And that's why the moves that I am making this year, this offseason, have been a lot bigger but they've also been just as equally researched, just as equally comped out to make sure I'm getting in at the right entry price point.
Yeah, and this leads into my hobby tip of the week. Listing cards. Okay, so I made a mistake. I didn't know I made this mistake, but I accidentally listed a card that I didn't even want. I ripped it out of the only basketball box that I've ripped is Select, and I ripped this Tyrese Maxey card, right? And I put it on for an auction, and when I listed it on eBay, Andy, it was different. It looked different. I was like, okay, well, eBay just updated their thing. Apparently, it was like eBay Canada or something like that. So I listed it for 99 cents. It sold. The first mistake I made as far as eBay is concerned, I didn't know mobily how to say that I was away. You could put that message, you're away. I didn't know how to do it mobily, right? I couldn't find a tutorial on how to do it. Apparently, you have to do it on your computer. I don't know. Maybe someone smarter can enlighten me. The second thing is the dude bought the card, and he is in Canada. He got it for 99 cents. The cheapest way, and I've been researching this, I have to ship the card for like $12 on a 99-cent card, right? That's $12. I'm losing a lot selling this. Now, once again, maybe there's someone that is Canadian that can help me out with this. I've gone back and forth with the guy trying to figure out if there's another way around it. I'm just going to fix the problem and just ship it for $12. So when you list a card, the reason why it all happened like that is because I clicked sell one like this, right? Always make quadruple sure that all that information is correct, because I've read stories, Andy, where someone does the sell one like this, and there was one little piece or sub data point that wasn't right, and that opens up the opportunity for the buyer to send the card back for whatever reason, because they could say, well, that what you listed this card wrong. You said this card was mint. It obviously wasn't. You said this card was, it could be anything from it being an orange prism to, orange laser prism. Those always, when you do that, sell one like this, and you've done a really good job, Andy. There are a ton of tutorials on how to do this on your channel. I messed up. I should have known that there was something a little bit wrong with the Canadian thing or whatever. So my hobby tip of the week is always double. I know we want to rush. I know we want to get it done. I know it's the least fun part of this hobby is actually listing the card on eBay and selling it. Always quadruple check what you're doing, or else you'll be like me out of $12.
Yeah, that's no fun. I honestly, man, I just treat it like a workout regimen now, and I just list a couple each day. I'm like, if I just do a couple each day over the course of the week, I've done like a little stack, and it wasn't nearly as painful. I was able to kind of go through them. You can kind of batch it, right? Take photos, and then you have the photos on your phone. Then you can go through them at a different time. Maybe you're doing something else, and you kind of get a few listed each day. That way they're ready for the start of the season. The one thing I'm not doing right now, unless of course you got a super hot player like we're talking about, Herbert Burrow, Justin Jefferson, and it's a hot card on top of that. So now you're checking those boxes. Then you maybe want to do a 99-cent auction, have that sucker ended on a Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, something like that. Get the most amount of eyeballs. Otherwise, I would not do an auction right now. I would be just listening to buy it now and waiting for preseason cycle to start picking up, and we're getting into that preseason cycle, and that's when you'll start seeing people reach and pay a lot more now based on more news coming in, more highlights, right? More highlights coming in from training camps of this guy doing that, or the preseason game, or like last year when Marquez Callaway caught 3 touchdowns from Jameis. All of a sudden, his rookie ticket autos went through the roof overnight. Stuff like that.
In a Tennessee uniform.
In a Tennessee uniform, man. But it had a Saints logo on it.
Yeah. So it's time for play of the week, Andy. Do you want me to go first because I have such a spicy one, or do you?
Yeah, go ahead. You go first. You have such a spicy one. I don't want to steal your thunder on this one. I'm excited about it.
I know we've brought him up before on this channel, but now we have even more incentive to buy Russell Wilson right now, because the season opening game will be the most hyped game of the first weekend. Now, there are more sexy matchups, Tampa Bay versus Dallas being one of them, because last year that was such a great season opener game between the two of them. There are better matchups in that
Sunday
one.
Night Football too.
And it's Sunday Night Football. Look, Russell Wilson going up against his old team. Are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
Are you freaking kidding me, Andy?
It's a night game too. So that's the 12th at night. Was that Monday night?
That is maximum amount of eyeballs. Maximum. And it is Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
But let's actually look a little bit deeper at Russell Wilson, okay? You also look at the schedule, right? Week 2, Houston. Week 3, San Francisco. Maybe that's Trey Lance. That will also be a primetime game. Week 4 at Las Vegas. Now, that's a really good team, the Raiders, but still, that is a very 4-0-able schedule for the Broncos. Obviously, with the first-year coach, we'll see what happens with Coach Hackett there, but still, that is a very favorable first 4 weeks to the season. In fact, I like Denver's start better than pretty much anyone. And, Russell Wilson, we're talking about this ticket autos in a Beckett case, even if it's 8.5, we're going for under $1,000. That is absolutely insane to me. And Andy, you talk about this 2012 year, the rookie scarcity print about amount of cards for all sets are so low. So I am a Russell Wilson believer. It did at times look like he lost a little bit of his fastball, but he was still overcoming injury. And we're talking about one of the most marketable athletes in all of pro sports, Russell Wilson. I would heavily consider buying his cards right now.
And been to 2 Super Bowls, won one. He's not quite a lock for the Hall of Fame, but with the age production curve of quarterbacks being so long, man, you got to think that this guy's got at least another 6-7 good years in. And I watched him do those throwing drills at the Pro Bowl, and I mean, he just absolutely dominated. I mean, he was throwing 40, 50-yard passes, dimes, nailing the little targets, and Mac Jones was just not even coming close. I mean, it was taking 5-6 throws from Mac Jones where Russ was doing it in one. I don't think he's lost much of a step. I am. Plus, we talk about the thin air, Mile High Stadium, and a higher altitude. The ball should fly even better. And
Look at that.
You add outside wedge. Jerry Judy's girlfriend, she dropped all that stuff, so he's good. He's going to be fine. But then you add Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton on the outside, Albert O. They also added another tight end. I think it was Greg Dulcich that they drafted.
UCLA, I love that guy.
Yeah, very interesting tight end prospects. Even more depth there. You've got Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon back in the backfield. It's gonna be wheels up for. You get KJ Hamler back, who's got incredible sub 4.4 speed. I mean, it's gonna be wheels up for Russ. The defense looks solid. I'm excited about the Denver Broncos. I think they're one team that just hasn't. People aren't giving them the respect that is probably going to be due to them. Maybe it's because of the AFC West correlation with the Chargers and the Chiefs and the Raiders now and all the moves that they've made and what Patrick Mahomes has just done on paper in the past 3 years. So I think that's why, but I think you're right. I mean, I love this play because I think at the end of the day, Russ's stock is going to go up big time, especially if they make it to the playoffs and he's kind of in that MVP conversation coming out of the gate. I think we're going to be like, okay, everybody's getting back on the Russell Wilson train again.
All right, Andy, I'm ready to hear what you got, man.
Well, so I look at like some places that have a lot of vacated targets and then, comp that with what is going on in terms of, let me move this over here. So, a bunch of numbers is kind of hard to see. So, whenever I crunch the numbers, I look at a guy like Stephon Diggs. He's going to be in my play of the week because of his value. Right. I think that the Buffalo Bills have one of the pass happiest offenses in the league. They also made significant improvements to their defense. I know you're not a Florida Gators fan, but they signed Kaiir Elam in the first round. I'm sure he's given the LSU Tigers some fits over the past couple of years.
Oh, he can play.
And so they made improvements to the defensive secondary. What they're doing up there in Buffalo is Josh Allen putting that team on his back. He has such an improvement over the last couple of years in his performance. Number one quarterback 2 years in a row now. Stephon Diggs, their elite top end wide receiver on the outside. They add depth to the slot position. They signed Jamison Crowder. They also signed like a late round draft pick guy that has got a very interesting profile. His name slipped my mind, but anyways, when you compare Stephon Diggs' rookie ticket auto value to that of Justin Jefferson, for example, there's a big difference there. Stephon Diggs is a 2015 rookie, but he's not that old, man. He's still in his prime. He's still going to be the number one receiver in that offense, a team that throws the ball at the second highest rate in the NFL, that are definitely bound for the playoffs this year. There's no scenario you don't see the Bills in the playoffs this year. And so his hype is going to come right back. And his rookie ticket autos right now are going about $65 in auction. Total steal when you compare that to Justin Jefferson of $200 or Jamar Chase of $500.
Especially if you're a believer in the Bills making a run to the Super Bowl. I mean, their Vegas projections are absolutely insane. You look at like all these football power indexes and all this stuff, they are so high on Buffalo. And keep in mind, they made this playoff run without Tre'Davious White at corner. So, at some point they're going to get him back. They get Kaiir Elam, who I like a lot. I think he's a steal out of Florida. It's very interesting. They have a good secondary. They're very analytically driven. They bring in Von Miller. It's hard to not like the Bills, even though, their schedule can be a little brutal to start the year. I like that. I really do, especially considering you can get a rookie ticket auto of Stephon Diggs for, I saw one for 55 sold in the past month. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So I like that play of the week.
Yeah, and that's where I think your focus should be in the market right now, is on these guys that are elite. Maybe they don't have a ton of FOMO because they're more veteran. Not a lot of fear of missing out driving their values up right now. But these are guys that are absolutely going to be relevant right in the thick of the playoff, the primetime game scenarios, getting massive production spikes throughout the season. And those are guys you definitely want to buy in low now. A lot of safety in them, for one. And then two, they're going to be right in the limelight, in the thick of it, whenever the dust settles and most of the rookies flame out. And here's Stephon Diggs again as a top 3 wide receiver. That's it, man.
You never know. You never know who's going to have that next Cooper Kupp year, right? You just don't.
Exactly.
Like for instance, someone, and this honestly, just because I know you so well, and you're not one to brag. I'll brag on you a little bit, okay? And I know people give you flack for this, but come on, we got to brag on Andy for a little bit. You're in many ways, you're a big. I don't want to say visionary. That just sounds too big. But you really put a lot of work into it, right? And one player that was very profitable for you was Allen Robinson, especially when you started out. You were getting his, Prism rookies for what? You were getting them for what, $1 a piece? You got like 20 of them for like $1 a piece. Am I wrong about that?
No, you're absolutely right, man. That was in summer of 2020. $1 a piece.
You never know what you're
selling them for 20, by the way, mind you, in September. And I love the new team scenario he's walking into with OBJ still sidelined till at least playoffs, and he's now a free agent. Allen Robinson, this is the best quarterback of his career. In Matt Stafford. And he's going to be out on the field in every single one of their offensive formations, pretty much.
Remember, no Robert Woods there anymore, and no Odell, Cooper Kupp. Especially considering they made such a deep playoff run this year, I think they're going to ease Cooper Kupp into the start of the year. Now he's going to still get a ton of targets. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, they're going to look at Allen Robinson and say, look, we're giving you this great situation. We really need you to help us carry us because we played so deep in the playoffs last year. And Cooper Kupp does have injury history. So, it's very interesting. You could find some of these more veteran wide receivers and make money. Like, I was a Cooper Kupp investor, last summer, and it turned out pretty well for me, obviously. But, look at these other veteran guys and see what you can find, right?
Yeah, they absolutely spike. You see how Allen Robinson rookie ticket autos are now back down around 20, 25. I love that because
I
I
love
was
it.
buying these at 20 and I flipped them once he signed with the Rams. And the Rams are going to be right back in the thick of it again this year. So I guarantee you there's going to be hype spikes. He's going to have some big touchdown upside games, primetime scenarios. I love it. At this price point, you got to combine that with the scarcity, and then the production is just going to outweigh, and it's going to drive the value up to where, somebody in LA hits the buy it now button on one of your cards you got listed for $50. That's a pretty good ROI. That's 2 to 3x. The opportunity value is there. You're making $30, $40 on a card. That's really solid.
Andy, this was another fun episode. I was missing the show for the past couple of weeks, and I enjoyed the solo episode. I enjoy what 402 is doing to make the channel look even better than what it already is. I'm going to give one final little parting shot here at the end, okay? I am wearing my Drew Brees shirt, okay? That is, you mentioned a minute ago, getting your Gronk collection up. I'm buying Drew Brees and Saint uniform cards. I'm really looking to buffer that up. I know he had this crazy quote yesterday about leaving the NBC booth, saying he's still thinking about what he's going to do. He said he was flirting with the idea of coming back. That's been shot down. You never know with Drew Brees. You just don't. So I'm just saying, if for some reason you didn't think I was going to go to this topic at the end, okay, let me admit something as a Drew Brees fan, okay? Tom Brady owned him in every way, okay? Now, think about this if you're Drew Brees, all right? You're one of the best quarterbacks of all time. And you and Tom Brady, for the end of your careers, are going back and forth for like the all-time record holders of passing yards and all those other stats, right? So that gets shattered by Tom Brady because he continues to play. Okay. Now imagine if you're Drew Brees and you're this hyper-competitive guy. Anyone that knows Drew Brees knows that, he was undersized. There were true doubters. And this guy has a competitive bone in his body that is unmatched, really. And to end his career, Tom Brady beat him in his division, in his own building, after Drew Brees dominated him during the regular season. Now, let me ask you this, Andy. Would that stick in your craw for the end of eternity? Yes or no?
Yes.
It
That would
would.
haunt me in my sleep.
So this is why I'm not saying Drew Brees is going to come back. But I do think Tom Brady is really getting to him, because now not only did Tom Brady one-up him winning a Super Bowl in a division that he's been in, his first year there, now Tom Brady's upped him in the broadcasting game as well, right? He gets the best broadcaster deal of all time, and he's never even called a game before. $25 million a year. So if you're Drew Brees and you've always played with Tom Brady as being one of your counterparts, you were robbed of the opportunity to play him in the Super Bowl back in 2018. Those things stick with you as a competitor. They just do. So I'm just saying, I'm not counting out a Drew Brees comeback. I'm not. I just simply can't, because I have followed this man his entire career. And I know there's people way closer to him saying that Drew Brees is not coming back and blah, 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 whatever. I'm not counting it out. I'm just not counting it out. It may not be this year. It might be somewhere down the road. If for some reason that were to happen, the hype cycle would be absolutely freaking sane for this guy. So I just wanted to bring that up as a Drew Brees homer and as a Drew Brees fan. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope he stays retired. Because the Saints, I don't think would take him back. I think he would have to go somewhere else. I hope it doesn't happen, but I'm just throwing it out there with the tweet. I know it was probably in jest, and we've been all joking about it. But if you're a true competitor and you are in Drew Brees' shoes, what Tom Brady is doing is driving you absolutely insane, and you want to see if you can do it yourself. Just saying. I'm just saying. Okay. But anyway, Andy.
Here's a little conspiracy theory for you, man. There just so happens to be a team in the NFC South. There's two teams in the NFC South that need better quarterbacks, much better quarterbacks, but one of them actually has a pretty solid roster, really good defensive roster, pretty solid offensive roster. Just upgraded their offensive line tremendously, and the Carolina Panthers. and they need Matt Rule needs to save his job. And they've been linked to talking to Cam Newton again. They've also drafted Matt Corral in the 3rd round, and I don't know how long Sam Darnold's going to last, but he's on a tight leash. And hey, he gets his chance to play against Tom Brady again on a much better roster. I don't know. That's interesting.
And I know Drew just had a surgery, so he would be out for a while. I'm just saying that guy is wired differently. He just is. A lot of the greats are. I know they say it about a lot of these guys, but the extent, and there's more to it. Like now there's this story out that Tom Brady and Sean Payton were going to team up with Miami. It's an older story. All those things, it just kind of, especially Drew being an undersized guy and truly being counted out, and truly his whole career saying, you're not big enough, you're hurt, you're passed over, you're not the guy. There's something that is just inside of that human being that we as regular humans cannot quantify. A comeback would not be smart. I hope Drew doesn't do it. I would cry to see him in a different uniform other than the Saints. I'm just saying it would be very interesting. But Andy, we are near the 1 hour mark. It's a fun show, man. Fantasy Football Card Quest. Check it out. You have so many good videos, so much good content that dives a little bit deeper into all our topics. Patreon.com/footballcard is where you can find us as well. Good episode, Andy. We're back, baby. We are back, baby. Let's go.
Let's go. See you next time.